All right, and welcome into the Fantasy Pros NFL Draft Show. With just over a week away until the NFL Draft is officially here, we're stirring the pot by breaking down the most polarizing 2025 rookie prospects on today's episode. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, and today I'm joined by a man who some are calling the most accurate and agreeable NFL draft analyst on the internet, the king of bros, Derek Brown, aka D-Bro. Good afternoon, pal. How are you as we sit on this final episode of this particular program ahead of Green Bay?
I thought that was a setup for EJ, because that can't be describing me, man. There are too many people on the internet that love to hate too much of what I say. Yeah. So I'll pass that over to EJ as far as all the love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're linking up today with a guy who looks as cool as the other side of the pillow with that wood background right now. Co-creator of Bootleg Football, founder and host of the Bear Era podcast, NFL draft analyst, EJ Snyder. What's going on, EJ? Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Are you the people's champion as Derek is not?
I am not, but the bait and switch is fantastic. I love it. Well played.
Guys, it's been a really fun ride on the show so far this offseason covering this NFL draft process. We'll have a Betting Pros podcast episode next week with D-Bro, myself, a couple guests with our best NFL draft bets. We'll also be live on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel for the next few weeks on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time to take your questions. So hop over there if you have any Dynasty related questions, redraft questions related to this NFL draft betting. We'll hook you up over there. And before we get down to business, just wanted to shout out everyone who's been tuning in all offseason as well, whether that's on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel or the podcast feed. We see you. We appreciate you. And as always, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. And all right, boys, let's go ahead. Let's jump into these polarizing prospects, starting with a player whose projected draft position is slipping by the day. Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. He's the Fantasy Pros ECR rookie QB2 after a season where he finished 8th in the Heisman Trophy voting. However, he's currently 6th in overall ECR Superflex rookie rankings. Derek Brown, we began this process many months ago with Shedeur as your quarterback one. Do you still hold that true today, sitting here April 14th, just about a week away from the draft?
Was my QB1, is my QB1, and I'm not moving off of that. I think there's a lot of different ways we can start this conversation about Shedeur Sanders, whether you want to talk about, and he's polarizing, whether we talk about the on-the-field play, off-the-field stuff.
Yes.
For me, I'll wrap a bow on all of the off-the-field stuff that I just don't care, man. I think there is a thin line to slice about cockiness versus confidence.
Yes.
I think there is a lot of hate that goes Shedeur's way that I get where they're coming from with it. I think there's also a lot of hate that goes Shedeur's way that is just strictly because they don't like his dad, and that's fine. But if you want to talk about the player, there's also a lot of narratives, all of the arm strength stuff, and the big thing about the arm strength stuff, for me, I don't know how you watch this film, and I'm because EJ, we have not talked about this guy, so I'm so curious where you come down with Shedeur. So for me with Shedeur, I don't know how we watch the film and we have worries and questions about the arm strength. To me, he has the arm strength to throw the entire tree. And I think just from a top-down approach, how can you be as accurate as he is and drop the ball into the bucket the way that he does on deep balls, ranking 18th in adjusted completion rate? If you don't have the arm strength, like just sheer common sense here. If you are struggling with a weak arm and you need every bit of torque, every bit of all the RPMs you can muster out of your body to get the ball down the field, you are you are throwing to spots. You are not accurate. You are throwing to areas. You are not able to lace throws like he can on the deep ball if you are scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as your arm strength goes. So, like, to me, I'm not worried about his arm at all. Like, you cannot be that accurate to those levels of the field when arm strength is that big of a concern as some people talk about. I don't think that he is a howitzer, but here's the thing. In the NFL, do you really need that every single down? No. So for me, his accuracy is fine. I think he makes a business decision with his arm and in these throws with saying, I am prioritizing instead of just grip it, rip it, I'm throwing it on a damn line. He makes the decision of saying, I care about, and what we should care about, to not limit yak opportunities for my wide receivers, to place the ball where it needs to be. I care more about ball placement over saying, all right, let's see how hard I can throw it. Let's go Anthony Richardson style to the second level. Pew! Dart! But EJ, where do you sit with it?
I think there have been a lot of narratives since the beginning of the process because he is one of the most talked about players in the entire draft. Mm-hmm. And some of the narratives have gone too far. Arm strength is probably one of them. He does not have a great arm. He has a fine arm. And that's fine for college. The problem is when you get to the pros, the windows get smaller, the players get faster. When you are expected to make those throws, especially outdoors, it is a thing. And we see quarterbacks struggle with it. You know, like Dome Geno is a real thing. I love Geno, but he plays way better inside than he does outside. So it's a consideration. I don't say it's the consideration. In terms of the accuracy, the numbers are fantastic. The film is not fantastic. And again, it's about trying to parse numbers from actual performance and what matters where he was and what matters where he's going. And for me, I come down on the side of there are some things about Shedeur's game that are really good, and there are some things about Shedeur's game that are major red flags for me as he tries to make the jump to the pros. Mm-hmm. And one is that right now, largely, he is a see it, throw it quarterback. He does not throw with a ton of anticipation. And you will see him throw to his guys after they have already stopped moving on a comeback. He doesn't throw it at the break expecting they're going to turn around and get it. You wait until he sees them and then throws it, which makes his arm look weaker than it is. Because again, the throw is late. It ends up being contested. Is it completed? Yeah, a lot of them were completed. His completion percentage is really high. Percentage of screens is certainly something to worry about. This guy had more screens in his offense than Justin Herbert had in his. And Justin Herbert was the poster child for he threw too many screens. We never saw what he did. Shedeur had more, literally more. So, but then you do see it, right? You do see really good accuracy to windows, short and medium over the middle of the field, which is where a lot of pro quarterbacks make a lot of money. And he is money on those throws. If I had to put a big green check at one area of Shedeur's game, it's right there. Short to medium, middle of field throws. He's very good. He does quite a bit of work on there. The other thing that we have to consider, and I know you guys are considering it, is how much Travis Hunter made him look right. He's got a very good wide receiving core, but Travis did work to make Shedeur look good, not the other way around. And he's not likely going to have a receiver like Travis Hunter because there aren't very many of them in the NFL. He might. But that would be an excellent opportunity. He's probably not going to be present on the team that he ends up with. So is he a good quarterback? Yes. Is he a top of the first round quarterback, agnostic of everything else? Not for me. Can he be a successful pro quarterback? Yes, he can. Does he have work to do to get there? Just like all players do. He does. And I think it might be a little bit bigger in that college to pro transition. He's mentally very tough. He's had to be in his particular situation. He's physically pretty tough. But the other thing is he doesn't offer you anything. There is nothing there. And we talk about that with every other quarterback, right? People talk about it with Kyle McCord. Oh, well, he's going to be great in the pocket, but he doesn't give you anything with his legs. Shedeur Sanders thinks he's faster than he is, which is a real problem because he's trying to run away from defenders who are not the caliber of defenders he's going to see in the NFL, and he doesn't make it. He can give you a couple of yards if the Red Sea parts and, he gets 8 or 10 yards up the middle. He can do that, sure. Is he a scrambling threat in any other way? Even on rollouts. His accuracy on rollouts isn't great either. He's a pocket passer that can work the middle of the field. And there's a place for that in the NFL. Is it a place high in the first round? Not for me.
So Shedeur is number one in all-time career passing completion percentage at the NCAA level. EJ, do you think that's more scheme-based? Is that kind of your thought there?
I don't. It certainly comes from a lot of the scheme and having a guy like Travis Hunter. It does not all come from that because, again, you will see deep sideline shots. Debro talked about it. He will put it in the bucket to a guy racing down the sideline where he just decides, basically pre-snap, I'm going to this guy. And sometimes that's Travis Hunter. He bails him out. Sometimes that ball's short, but still completed because the receiver turns it into a back shoulder throw. All those things don't come through in raw accuracy metrics, typically. Okay. You have to dig pretty deep. And look, his accuracy metrics They're sterling. Adjusted accuracy, 81.8%. That jumps out. You're like, okay. Then you go in, you remove the screens, you remove the stop routes. Like, I don't know any quarterbacks who are being considered for the move to the NFL that can't hit a stop route at 8 yards.
Yeah.
I don't care what your arm is. I don't care what your anticipation is. That is a manufactured throw where you put 4 guys in the pattern. One of them pulls up at 8 yards, turns his number to you, and you hit him with a football. Like, I know 14-year-olds that can do that. But again, it doesn't differentiate between, like, that is an accurate completion for your percentage for these statistics. So when you get in there and you really look at, okay, where do the good Sunday throws come from? And again, it's that short to medium over the middle of the field. And there's a lot of work there in a lot of offenses in the NFL. But if you're asking him to consistently go across the field, outside the numbers, again, the arm is not awesome. A lot of times he just threw it up and Travis was down there.
Derek, when we're kind of on this topic of polarizing prospects, Shedeur certainly won. He opened up with an over-under of 3.5 for his draft position. That has ballooned up in the last week. It's now over-under 6.5 at Caesars. You can get plus 310 on the under. And then over at DraftKings, over-under 8.5, plus 220 for that under. This is going to be one of my strong stance in our betting episode next week. I'm on that under. I'm going to continue to pound that at that number. Are you as well? And are you also in at the overall player 6 right now coming off the board in Superflex Dynasty rookie drafts?
I'm fine with both of those. I mean, I think the conversation for any of these quarterbacks starts at probably the 103, 104 of this class as far as Dynasty rookie drafts, probably the 104 after like 2 top first round running backs, Tet come off the board, then we're talking quarterbacks.
Okay.
And as far as that, yeah, I mean, I was hitting the under when it was 3.5 and at plus 310. So
I was too.
I'm still there. And some of this, and I think this draft is so interesting as far as what are these top teams in the top 3 going to do? And outside of Cam Ward going at 1, we don't know. You know, to me, and I've been on this and I'm still this. EJ, we haven't talked about any of this. So I'm curious where you sit with this. Like, I'm not saying I'm a source guy. Like, I have a few, but not a ton. But with this situation in particular, I think what the Giants did with their quarterback moves this offseason and bringing Russ in and them saying we're going to construct a quarterback room, to me, that is also signal because the best clarity you get about what could possibly happen in the NFL draft and what teams are going to do or what they're not going to do is the offseason moves that they make heading up to the NFL draft. So you'll see teams sign wide receivers that are really kind of placeholders. So like if we miss out on a guy or a tight end or running back, especially running backs, where it's like, look at what Dallas is doing right now. If we don't get a running back, we have bodies we can run the ball with and we'll somehow maybe make do.
Kind of,
to me, that's why I feel about the Giants. They're telling us, I feel like those moves and is saying to us, Cleveland is going to take a quarterback. Okay, if Ward goes 1, then Sanders goes 2. I could be wrong with that. And again, everybody's going to Cleveland met and had dinner with Travis Hunter. Shedeur Sanders is also at that dinner. So you can definitively tell me that it's going to be Hunter over Sanders. They were eating with both of them. It wasn't like one of the guys was standing outside the restaurant saying, please let me in. So, and again, maybe I'm just taking too much signal, but EJ, how are you kind of reconciling all of those different things?
There's a lot this year, and I am, I think the most important thing is I am probably with you in that this draft is going to be fascinating as a draft guy, as a guy that started in that place. Crazy. Like, there is no certainty. There is usually certainty through 4 or 5. You can maybe even parse out the top 10 with a pretty good feeling of like, hey, these 10 players will be gone in the top 12 picks, something like that. Not so this year. Like after 2, and I do think it is after 2, I think cooler heads will probably prevail, and I think Cleveland will be looking at their board and say, like, Travis Hunter, we're going 2. And then the conversation gets really interesting, regardless of what you think about Cleveland's pick, because the Giants on the board at 3 with Carter there, who they don't necessarily need and doesn't really move the needle for, again, their situation, which is a coach and a GM coaching for their lives in New York.
Right.
That's where it gets really interesting. And, is somebody going to go up? Would Carolina go up and get Carter? Well, they might at that point, because again, he does move the needle for them. We'll see. So, but there is no certainty, especially if it goes in that order. Cam Ward, I think, is secure. I think the Titans should take him, and I think that's a justified pick. I think Hunter should go 2 based on who he is and what he does. And then you get to like probably only one of the top trinity that is, really trade upable for outside of needing a quarterback, which is just need that happens every year in the NFL. Is Carter at 3 with the Giants, who have a muddied QB situation. And okay, now what are we doing? And the answer is I don't know. And it's going to be theater from 3 on down.
Yep. Absolutely, man. There are so many question marks. Continuing at the quarterback position, maybe no bigger question mark than Alabama signal caller Jalen Milroe. After rushing for over 700 yards, 20 touchdowns this past season in that Nick Sheridan called offense, I was really high on Jalen Milroe. However, it's been a pretty rather disappointing pre-draft process with Milroe not running at the combine, failing to impress in Mobile as well. Still, he did accept an invite to the NFL draft, leading some analysts to believe he could sneak into the back half of day one. EJ, are you one of those believers that he could be a day one prospect still with everything we've seen so far this offseason?
It would be fascinating. Is it possible? It absolutely is. Mike Tomlin could end his slide and say, "We believe." And that is what it would take. Do I think that's a great move? I personally don't. So if Jalen Milroe goes in the first with what he's done, in college and the pre-draft process, I would be very surprised. That would be what I would consider a reach. Jalen Milroe, one of the best runners in this draft. And I don't mean runners from the quarterback position. I mean one of the most electric guys with the ball in his hands, period, in all of college football. Unfortunately, the flip side is he has all the arm you could ever want, but it is not tied together with mechanics. The accuracy is incredibly inconsistent. You'll see him make an amazing throw followed up by 3 complete foul balls. And that type of inconsistency is very difficult to live through in the NFL because you have less plays overall, less drives overall, points are more important, and not as plentiful as they are in college. You're not racking up 50 burgers on very many NFL opponents. So when you look at what Jalen Milroe is and what he could be, he might have the highest variance in this draft.
Right.
If you get Jalen Milroe in the building and you figure it out, you get him with the guy that, Josh Allen worked with to clean up his accuracy, and he gets even average in terms of consistency, accuracy, ball placement. He's got every tool. We don't have any arm questions about Milroe.
Yeah.
We certainly don't have any leg questions about Milroe. We have quarterback playing questions in the NFL about Milroe. Again, great college player. That translation is going to need a bunch of work. So if somebody is sure enough that they can make that quickly enough that they choose him in the first round, and again, the invitation to the first round is flummoxing many of us. We'll see. But in terms of, man, the potential is off the charts. The actuality is you have to be real, and patience is incredibly limited in the NFL these days. So he's got both of those things working against him.
Derek, kind of give me your feel on Milroe currently. I know you weren't high on him initially when watching the tape because you see those games against Georgia this season. First half, amazing. LSU ran all over the place. But then there's the lows. You watch that Oklahoma game at the end of the season, meltdown. Michigan as well, meltdown in that Pop-Tarts Bowl game in the weather. So there's 2 sides of the coin here. Currently, ECR rookie QB4, player 15 overall. So a ton of upside in the second round of Dynasty rookie drafts. But is that enough to get you there with him?
Nope. It's not. Dude, I feel like we've done this, and this is not me, trying to cover up wounds or dealing with wounds from Anthony Richardson and stuff. This is different for me. Like,
I got him.
I'm not comparing Jalen Milroe to Richardson. I'm not comparing him, and I think it is a horrible comparison because, look, Jalen Hurts is he was a more accurate quarterback coming out. He was just miles ahead of Milroe in every aspect of playing quarterback, not talking about rushing the ball and what you can do on your legs and stuff like that. I could point to a billion stats for Jalen Hurts to say that anybody making the comparison between those 2 players has not done the work, doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. They're not the same guy. And so for Milroe, it just comes down to me is he's a damn good athlete. I've heard he's a hard worker. Heard he's an awesome kid. I wish him all of the luck in the NFL. It's just not a bet I'm prepared to make, man. Like, with just watching him play quarterback, it's the erratic accuracy to every level of the field. I mean, we're discussing a quarterback over the last 2 years, 53rd, 60th amongst all FBS quarterbacks, at least 150 dropbacks. You even look at when he was given clean pockets, and that's where it's like, pressure metrics for quarterbacks versus pressure can wax and wane. They can look great one year, not great another year. A lot of that is contextual based off of your offensive line, what types of pressure you're facing, because not all pressure is created equal. You have quick pressure, you have pressure off the edge, you have unblocked pressure. So saying a guy was pressured doesn't look the same as if like your running back misses a blitz pickup and you're getting blown up 2 seconds after you got the damn ball in your hands versus you sat in the pocket for 5 seconds and, oh my gosh, I'm pressured. That's totally different. But when you look at clean pocket adjusted completion rate, 66th, 78th over the last 2 years, like that is horrible, man. And it goes whether you're talking about ball placement, you're talking about him as a thrower, you're talking about even him processing speed wise, where there's so many times where it's like, he's a see it throw quarterback. There's so many times where I'm watching film and I watched Milroe's film and I came away just immensely frustrated, dude, where it was like, throw it. Damn it. Why isn't he throwing it? Throw it. He's still holding on to it. Throw it. Why? Just run, do something. And he's holding on to it. I'm like, get rid of the ball, dude. And all of that is so flummoxing that it's not a bet I'm willing to make. Like there are certain guys where you're like, okay, every player goes into the NFL and it's like, you have shortcomings with every player. It is what do you need to improve when you go to the NFL? Every player is like that. Nobody is perfect, straight up. But when the game gets faster, the players get bigger, everybody is fast. Everybody's a ridiculous alien athlete. Stuff gets even harder, man. So the things that you're not good at or the things that you struggle with or the parts of your game that need to be cleaned up can get magnified even more. Whether we're talking about accuracy issues, processing issues, hero ball stuff. That was why I was worried about Caleb last year. But like, this all comes back to Milroe. It's not a player that I'm willing to make the bet that he can clean up all of this stuff in the requisite time to get the starts we're talking about EJ hit this perfectly, man. In this iteration of the NFL, you can't even say that guys are getting the entirety of their rookie deals to even prove that they're NFL worthy quarterbacks. Like, going back to Richardson, you knew as a team, Indy drafted this guy. And as a general manager and head coach, you should have known he needed more starts. He needed snaps. He needed just to play freaking football to even have a chance to figure it out. And yet he's hurt. He's inconsistent. He hasn't gotten a lot of time and they're already pulling the plug on that. So you're telling me Milroe comes in and an NFL team is going to definitively give him time depending on what his situation looks like? That's a tough bet for me, man. And the other side of this is, if I was Jalen Milroe, I would say to the NFL, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be your theater piece. I appreciate and I respect you inviting me there for the first round of the NFL draft. I'm going to chill at home with my family.
Right.
You're not using me as a spectacle to sit here and keep bringing the camera back to me where I go. If I fall in the first round, I'm not feeling airtime for you. I'm sitting at home and I'm chilling with the fam.
Yeah, it's difficult, man, especially because I would have loved to see him come back to Alabama, be in that Ryan Grubb called offense that we'll see in 2025. I think it would have been, one more year with Ryan Williams out there at wideout too. So it just feels like he kind of rushed through the process. And like, EJ, when we're sitting here on our dynasty drafts, like you have the chance to draft a Milroe or Jaden Higgins or Jalen Knoll or Alec Ayomanor. Like there's just, it feels like a tough bet to make at that pick right there.
Especially if he gets picked in the first round. And theater piece aside, like the NFL, to your point, Ebert, doesn't want that theater. I know you think they do. They don't want a guy sitting there moping into the second round, that is not why they pulled him there. They know something.
Will Levis and his girlfriend.
Yes. And he's not the only one, right? It does happen, but to make that offer that sort of assuredly at the time when they did it, they know something. He's probably going off the board, whether or not we agree with it, because they don't want him sitting there to like yesterday's fruit. That is not the look they're looking for. Now, whether or not we agree with that, but the point being, if he gets picked in the first round, all those expectations ratchet up. They do. It's a label. It's a tag. It gives you some extra chances in the NFL historically. If you were a first round pick, people are more willing to say, hey, he's a first round pick, I'll give him another shot. But it also gives you pressure in your current spot. Hey, we picked you in the first round. That was the biggest draft chip we had, and we spent it on you. We need you to pay it off, like now. And that's not going to be healthy for him. If I had to pick an ideal situation for him, it would be, again, not a first round selection, so this is weird, but like when Malik went to Green Bay, right? And he got to be not the guy. And he gets a couple of starts, and they're like, look, you can do this with a limited playbook, and you looked really good doing it. You're not going to get that if you're the first round quarterback. Nobody's pulling any punches. So I would like for him, for his own development, like you said, it would have been cool if he went back to Alabama. If he is going to go to the NFL, get him in a second round spot. Even a third round spot would be fine with me. Get him with a coach that knows he doesn't have to start right away and can have him come in some spots as a package player and then work on that stuff. Get him to a quarterback coach in the offseason. Start tying his mechanics together and then see what he could be, because I want to see him be the best version. Because when he's the best version, you mentioned some of the games, that's great football. It's fun to watch.
Electric, yeah.
So for EJ, would you disagree with any of those spots, man? Him going to, now this is assuming that we get this coaching staff staying there, but him going to the Giants, not being pressed into starting this year, going to Las Vegas, even the Jets, because Justin Fields has good money for the next 2 years. So, well, not saying that they would do that.
Sitting behind Fields in particular is fascinating to me as a Bears
That would be
fan.
Fascinating, yeah.
Because I'm like, Fields was farther along as a passer, also very electric as a runner, had a much higher standard, and I was fine with Justin Fields being picked in the first round because he had shown on film things in the passing game that would translate to the NFL. He got to the NFL. It was not a great situation, obviously. He regressed as a passer in a lot of ways, continued to excel as a runner. But having Justin Fields kind of 2.0 with a lesser passer rating sitting behind Justin Fields 1.0 would be very, very interesting to me. And again, I think the new coaching staff in New York has a better shot of saying, hey, this is how you need to be a pro in the NFL and shaping that experience for him. I like that aspect, but it would be a field day for the press for sure.
What if Seattle were to take the watered down version approach of what happened with Kirk Cousins? What if they would take him in the second round and put him behind Darnold?
Well, you got you got Drew, right? Woohoo! I don't know that Seattle would prioritize the pick. And again, he's probably going to be off the board before teams like that would take a swing at him, which is both good and bad. Like, hey, go make your money. But the money you're going to make if you're Jalen Milroe is getting your game together, playing well, and getting signed somewhere where you have a chance to start, a la Kirk Cousins, right? That's the ticket, and I don't think he's going to get to be able to punch it, and that's going to be a very high pressure situation for a young guy who has been in it. Look, being quarterback at Alabama is not a low pressure situation. He's already experienced that, but in terms of his pro prospects, it's going to make it more difficult for him.
Okay. Before we shift gears, I did want to remind the Fantasy Pros family that if you want to win a signed DeAndre Swift Bears jersey for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on any Fantasy Pros Dynasty podcast video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the program, so make sure you ring that bell so you can be alerted when new videos are up and to claim your prize. Let's get to some polarizing wide receiver prospects, starting with Missouri's Luther Burden III, who a few months ago, many people were taking him as the wide receiver 2 in this class, in the top 5 overall of Superflex rookie drafts. I feel like the community is slowly caught up to D-Bro and I's opinion that, hey, this guy's profile a little bit fraudulent, causing him to fall down to player 11 overall in ECR. D-Bro, can you kind of shed some light on those who maybe missed our top 10 wide receiver episode on why you're not buying Birding as a first round rookie or NFL draft prospect?
Yeah, man. I mean, it comes down to, was he incredibly productive? Yeah. This has nothing to do, and the reasons that I'm lower on Luther Burden has nothing to do with his down 2024 season. I just want to make sure that I'm phrasing this right.
Okay.
Everybody talks about that as a talking point, and what we saw in usage from 2023 to 2024. To me, that's not where I'm at and why I'm lower on him. for me, this archetype of player and what we've seen out of his game to this point, that's why I'm scared. In terms of what he's really good at, the way that he was used in Missouri, and projecting that type of manufactured touch role into the NFL, we hear it year after year after year after year. I sat on the other side of the fence for Malachi Corley last year, and I'm still there. And people, cite missed tackles forced and blah, blah, blah. I mean, just he's a he's a bowling ball with the ball with his hands, and it's a good thing when a team wants to get the ball in their hands, and his movement skills. Can we project him to be a good route runner? My whole thing with all of that, saying you have really good movement skills and saying that you will be a good route runner is a big intuitive leap I am not willing to make. It is a very different conversation. I said it on previous episodes. To be a good route runner and to say that you have the potential to possibly become a good route runner is they are two very different conversations to have. So just because he is twitchy, just because he can break tackles, just because his movement skills are good, does not mean that he will definitively turn into a good route runner. Mm-hmm. And based off of what we've seen out of college, his archetype, the way his game is and the way he was used, there is a lot of projection. And I think it's really, really scary as far as projecting it that he will be the guy that everybody hopes that he will turn into. And if you look at just how he was used, so these stats are from my dude Scott Barrett out on Twitter, every 800-yard FBS wide receiver season, and these are ranked by the percentage of yards gained on either screens or deep slot targets, so your slot fades. Since 2018, the players that we're assuming the good draft capital for Luther Burden, the players drafted in the top 3 rounds, here are the percentages. Malachi Corley, 65%, Malachi Corley, 58%. I'm just reading down the list of the guys that qualify for this, got the draft capital, but this is the usage that they got in college. You're looking at Malachi Corley as the top 2 on this list, then it's Tutu Atwell. This is not a great list to be on. Then Luther Burden is 4th, Wan'Dale Robinson, Treylon Burks, Devin Duvernay, Jalen Hyatt, Amari Rogers. That is a damning list to find yourself on. Like this archetype of player that is used from the slot, used with manufactured touches, and it's just not good, dude. Mm-hmm. And I can't make that projection that Luther Burden is going to do more in the NFL and learn everything he needs to learn to be a good route runner, to be on the perimeter, to be the guy that wasn't, because all I saw was a ton of tape on him being used in bunch formations, handoffs, rub routes, a ton of stuff creating easy separation for him where he's not asked to, and this is the thing where it's like, this translates 10 times out of 10. Give me the wide receiver where I'm not asking or an offensive coordinator isn't forced to scheme up all these ways to get you free, get the ball in your hands. If I can ask you and just say, go line up and route dudes up, go line up and win routes. That has not been asked of Luther Burden to this point. Can he answer that question and do that in the NFL? Remains to be seen. I'm on the other side of it saying I'm highly skeptical that happens.
Okay. And yeah, I will put my hand up. I was one that I didn't like the production nearly dropping in half this past year. Theo Weiss outproduced him, a guy who's coming in this NFL draft process. No one's talking about him. So do you have similar concerns as well, EJ, whether that's a lack of production in 2024 or just the overall schemedness of this player?
No on the first, yes on the second. So,
okay.
In terms of production, didn't bother me. As soon as you look at Missouri's offense, especially their quarterback, and you go, okay, I get it. I understand why the production dropped.
Yeah,
cool.
Brady Cook's not the best. Yeah, that's for sure.
No, that's a very, very kind way to say that. So the production thing in college production, again, it can be indicative, but you have to look at how it's produced and does it translate. And I think Debro's, I'm not going to call it a rant, I'm going to call it his argument because I think it's a good one, is really right on here. That's one of the best ways I've heard it parsed out about this player. And it's the way I feel about this player. I haven't really had a chance to go over this, but yeah, I was higher on him coming in because he had that incredible season, right? Whenever a guy has that much production, there's something there. And you go find what the somethings are, do they translate, and how excited you are about him. Wasn't worried about the production dropping because as soon as I looked at the tape this year, I was like, I know why the production dropped. That's fine. Didn't have a lot to do with it. Then you get into peeling away the layers of the onion. And I think the layers that Debro focused on are the most important ones.
Okay.
When people start talking about a player and they start saying, well, if you can only do this for him, if you can just do this, if you do this with him, he'll be great. And there's all these caveats for this is how we'll make him great. He'll be great if we can get him into space, if we can get him scheme touch. Like the NFL doesn't really flex like that. And the production you get off those targets is again reduced because defenders get there more quickly. They're more likely to tackle you. Are you going to get away on some and have some highlight plays? You are. But as you look at this archetype, it's funny that you brought up Scott's list. I look at other lists, but when you start saying, who does this player remind me of from tape? Who do these arguments remind me of from draft circles, from pre-draft, from post-draft? And it's the Kadarius Toney type, right? It's an electric athlete. We're going to get him in space. He's going to make all these things happen, right? And every time you hear that, you go, yeah, and I get excited about those players. Those players are cool. And I say, cool, what would translate? A lot of the production, even the production he did have, the good production this year from Missouri, are those type of touches. They don't translate as well in the NFL because, again, you need to get put out on an island and forced to create your own stuff more often than not. And if you can't do that reliably all the time, your production's going to go down. And if this production goes down from where it was in college for all the factors we just talked about, you're talking about a receiver that has 300 or 400 yards a year in the NFL. You know, Jerry Jeudy was another one, right? And Jerry Jeudy, we actually is a little more polarizing because he opened up when he got a guy that could throw on the ball and they started using him the right way. But in Denver, it was continually like, well, and again, he wasn't a guy that made yards after contact. He wasn't a physical guy after the catch. It was that he can route guys up, but he has to do it in space. He's not going to do it against press necessarily. He's got to get away from the jam. Like there are all these stipulations, and we saw that play out over his first seasons in Denver. And we're like, well, that's kind of what you get when you get to the NFL. Now, was it in there? It was. For the other guys I mentioned, it hasn't been. And for almost all the guys that Debro mentioned, it hasn't been. So it is a tough bet. The only thing, and this is the sort of, I don't want to say saving grace because it's not, the sort of silver lining for Luther Burden is that guy's a dog in clutch situations. Like when they need a play down the field, traditional NFL, like he made it twice this year in spots where you can't wilt, right? So he's got that going for him. He is a tough dude mentally. You did start to see the frustration this year. I don't blame him, but it's still a check on his film that like he is, if you're a body language guy, if you're an on-field presence guy, if you're a bench guy, like it was not good this year at Missouri. And I understand why. You have a great season. You go into the next season, which is your NFL draft season, and it falls off. You have the right to be frustrated. What you do with that frustration outwardly certainly goes to your film too. So you're talking about a very talented guy, good hands, great athlete, not a great route runner, not necessarily great at, I'll say, earning his own stuff in an NFL way, who again, I think is going to be a productive but not hyper productive NFL player. That's not a guy you pick in the first round. That's not a first receiver off the board. And when I see him on the lists up there, again, it's kind of like Jalen Milroe. I think that's unfair to him as a player. It's going to be more difficult for his projection. If he's the first wide receiver drafted in this draft, come on, it comes with weight, right? And he's not going to live up to that in the NFL. Like most likely, very small chance that he does. It basically stacks the board against him. And I don't want to see that. If he gets picked in the bottom of the second, I think that's much more reasonable. Top of the third, great value. Let's go. You want to give me Luther Bird at the top of the third? Everybody's screaming at home right now. Mizzou fans are like pointed mentions, you know. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to get picked earlier, and I don't think it's going to be as good for his pro projection. Again, great college player. His second to last season, undeniably one of the great college wide receiver seasons we've seen recently. Good stuff. College and pro, not the same. I think he'll be a good pro, a steady pro, a wide receiver 3 or 4 that you can use, can give you a little bit of juice in the return game. Sure, neat. That is not a top half of the first round wide receiver, and I see him place there, and I think it's odd place.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you said, EJ. Like I thought that after I got through with him as a prospect, I thought it was absolute crazy sauce that I was seeing him mocked and projected as a first round wide receiver. I've got him as a day 2 guy. Like I'm with you. I think like late round 2, early round 3. One more thing that I'll mention here.
Sure.
To everybody out there, he is not Zay Flowers. He is not DJ Moore. Stop comping him to that. And Jalen Knoll is actually who you want Luther Burden to be. Like Jalen Knoll is that guy that everybody wants Luther Burden to be.
Yeah, and Knoll kind of under the radar because he's been playing with Higgins. He's been playing at Iowa State, which, before this season, definitely not a helmet program, as you like to say, Debro, not a school that everyone's clamoring to bet on each weekend or watch consistently. So sticking with these polarizing prospects at the wide receiver position, let's talk about the consensus wide receiver one of the 2025 rookie class, or maybe I should say was the consensus wide receiver one of the rookie class, Arizona's Tetairoa McMillan, who now has a projected draft position of over under 17.5, the same as Matthew Golden. Most people's concerns revolve around his top-end speed, the play strength as well, due to kind of his lanky stature. Derek Brown, do you share any of those concerns, or do you remain all in on the 2024 consensus All-American?
I'm all in, man. Like, he's the wide receiver one of this class. Prospect fatigue is real. I get it. We talk about these guys for a long time. I'm not shading Tetairoa McMillan. I'm not worried about the 4 or 5. And this is not me tossing shade or taking shots here, but I've seen where people have talked about, we have not seen a wide receiver picked inside the top 10 or 15 picks that's run over a 4 or 5.
Yep.
That stat is very, very cherry picked when you consider that Marvin Harrison Jr. did not run the 40. Drake London did not run the 40.
Yep.
Both of those guys did not run the 40. So that stat is already debunked, and just kick it into the ether because I don't really give a shit about it. I think Ted has all the skills to be a wide receiver one in an offense. I think that he has all the skills to be an alpha in the league. I think that he moves in a way that a 6'5" receiver should not be able to move.
Okay.
When you're 6'5" and your butt can run a crisp whip route, you have my attention. When you look at his ability, his start-stop ability, and his short yardage ability, as far as like his burst, his yak ability, you don't see guys that are that tall that have that type of burst just immediately when they turn into a run after the catch player. And we could parse through all the other kind of stuff about route running. Do I wish that he had a little bit more crispness at the top of his stem at times? Sure. But no player is perfect coming to the NFL. Does he have things he needs to work on in his game? Absolutely. But can he be a wide receiver one for an NFL offense? Absolutely. To me, and the one thing that I don't really understand is, in one breath, a lot of people are like, oh, he's like Drake London. And then they're like, but he's not worth being drafted in the top end of the first round. Oh, but he's like T. Higgins. Oh, you mean like T. Higgins that just produced amazing numbers on a per game basis? Health has been more the problem of why T. Higgins has not put up 1,600-yard seasons than his talent. Oh, okay. Oh, he's like Cortland Sutton. You mean Cortland Sutton before all of the injuries? That was a really, really freaking good player. But apparently, all those names, in one breath, we talk about all those comps and all those stylistic comparisons, but then he's not worth going as high as we think he should go because, I don't know, we're at the part of the draft cycle where we're just going to make up talking points about players. Like, I'm just not willing to do that, man. I mean, give me Tet's ability after the catch, his ability. He wasn't pressed a ton, but he showed over the last 2 seasons he could beat press, he could beat man coverage. I mean, and he's battle tested in that to a certain extent. Like, Tetairoa McMillan over the last 2 years has faced the 3rd most and the 10th most man coverage targets in those last 2 seasons. What did he do? Produce top 10 yards per route run seasons in each one of those years against man coverage. Like, he's a wide receiver one, dude. I'm not getting too cute with this.
EJ, where are you at on Tet?
Slightly cooler, but I would not say cool. Again, this is when people start saying consensus and number one and guaranteed and he's all everything. Those are rare players. We had possibly 3 of them in last year's draft, which spoils people. Sometimes there's none. And you could even argue this year that maybe this is that year, right? A lot of very good wide receivers, but when you're saying wide receiver one, I believe he can be a starting X, which is a very valuable thing in the NFL. Is that a true wide receiver one? Well, if you look at offenses like Seattle's and JSN, like JSN's the one, he's not an X, right? He plays slot for them, but he's the one because that's how their offense is focused. So Tet, I think, is all the things that Debro said outside of sort of all everything. And T. Higgins is a little rich for me. Cortland Sutton is pretty good. I like that. Drake, I think a lot of people are saying Drake because the size and the movement skills are similar. They're different players. Drake is a tougher player. He's a better rebounder than Ted is. Contested catch stuff. People are worried about the drops. Drops are noisy. They're kind of like interceptions for DBs. Like they go up and down. They're fickle. It's a concern. Like you need to be sure when you're picking him why those happened. And would you like more toughness at the catch point? You would, for sure. Has he demonstrated it throughout the past? Yes. The one thing about Ted is you have no questions about who he is in terms of usage, in terms of overall volume, in terms of production. Like he has shown you clearly who he is. You're either comfortable with that for what you and your offense need, or you're not. So is he a starting axe? Yes. Is he a, top round wide receiver? Yes. I would take him in the first if my team needed that because he's highly productive. He's athletic in ways, again, that taller, longer lived guys typically aren't.
Yeah.
You can work with a lot of what's there, and I'm not unhappy about it, and it's not a projection. So I'm going to sleep pretty well if I pick Ted knowing who he is, because I'm not like, well, I hope he turns into, like, he already is that guy. That guy works pretty well in the NFL as a straight up starting X, which, again, just about every team in the league has and uses regularly. Like, is he going to be your leading receiver? I don't know that he is. Is he going to be good and worthy of that spot? I think he is.
Okay. By now, most of you have probably heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it yet? It's time to go see what all the buzz in the Dynasty community is about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract, and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. If you think it sounds complicated, it's really not. And the best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it takes no more time than a standard Dynasty League. It just requires a bit more strategy. If you think you're among the fantasy elite, well, this is the platform to test your mettle. Still not sure? You can test out your GM skills for free in a mock free agency auction. If you like what you see, use the promo code FANTASYPROS to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Again, that's promo code FANTASYPROS to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real at realitysportsonline.com. Let's go ahead and shift gears to the running back position. Next up is Arizona State's Cam Skattebo, who was one of the most fun players to watch down the stretch in the college football season, led the Sun Devils to the CFP, nearly helped upset them against the Texas Longhorns with a brilliant performance in that Peach Bowl. After finishing 5th in the country in the Heisman voting, Skattebo is ranked 19th overall in our rookie Superflex ECR. However, some of our own analysts, including my co-host over at the Betting Pros College Football Show, Scott Boggan, he views him as a first-round rookie pick. Derek Brown, where would you be taking Cam Skattebo in rookie drafts?
Much, much, much lower than that. I've got Cam Skattebo at RB.
Gonna do Boggs like that?
But Boggs and I have fought about him. I say that he's got too much. He watched too much of that Texas game, and it's pushing him too hard. Like I get it, man. Like I understand. Like everybody that believes in the Skattebo hive or Skattebo hive. I get it, man. Like I understand where it's coming from. For me, I've got him as my 27th overall ranked player, and this is before draft capital.
Okay.
I think that draft capital is probably not going to be kind to Cam Skattebo.
Oh, really?
And when I say not kind, I think he's going to be a day 3 guy. I think somewhere in the middle of day 3. I will be surprised if he goes higher than that. Like and this isn't like, I know he went out and ran a 4.65 40 and stuff like that. Look, if you were expecting faster, I don't know what you were watching on tape. Like, I mean, for me, and we can adjust that. Like, if you want to talk about it, it's a pro day time. I mean, really, that's 4.7. If you want to add the 0.05, but regardless of even of that, like, I didn't need to see him to run the 40 to know what his game is like and know how he's going to translate. Mm-hmm. For me, is he a good receiver out of the backfield? Yeah, we can have that conversation. For me, it's the archetype of player. It's the testing. It's some of the not off-field stuff, but things I heard floating around the combine about work ethic and things. And again, I'm not spreading things. I'm just sitting here telling people what was discussed and what I heard. I don't know the kid personally. I can't speak to, how many days he's in the gym and what he's doing. But looking at the archetype of player, I think you match up the testing versus just his game. If the draft capital is not tied to that, and knowing that he is going to be a 3-down workhorse and get the volume, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and tell you that he's an explosive player. He's ripping off long runs. Okay, well, if he's not doing that, then he needs to be a tone setter. He needs to be the guy that's the fuel of your offense, and he needs to be getting volume to maximize why a team drafts him. And in this iteration of the NFL, yeah, like we could have a long conversation about, okay, more too high coverage, softer, the revitalization of the running back position in today's NFL. Maybe a team believes in him and he's part of that. He could be the fulcrum for an offense. I kind of lean on the other side of it is there's also the side of the NFL where we need explosive plays. And if we're not getting those out of the passing game because we're not seeing as much single high, not as much man coverage, a lot more zone, a lot of teams saying in pass defense structures that are saying, we are going to take away your ability to get explosive plays through the passing game. So we need explosive plays through the ground game. If that is the way that NFL offenses and teams and coordinators are approaching this, and they're going to approach that with how they're building their team, how they're designing their offense, and looking for the players that have the skill sets to maximize those plays and this type of idea of how do we want to function as an offense, Skattebo doesn't fit that at all. So, okay, well, if he's not going to be the every down guy, if he's not going to get the volume, then what is he in the NFL? Probably the 1B at a committee, probably the goal line guy, probably the short yardage guy, probably a guy that's going to live in the 9 to 15 carries type of range. Maybe if it's a team that's a lot of positive game script, he's salting away the clock. And for all of that, I just look at it, he's probably more like the hyped up version of Tyler Algier than he is going to be the next coming of Kareem Hunt in the NFL.
Yeah, I get it. I agree with everything you said. The only thing I would add is that, I think that he is a great kid. I think he is a team leader. We talked about earlier on this program in a different episode that he is someone who lost a ton of weight coming into his senior season. He was a team captain. I think a team is going to fall in love with him. I think he does get into day 2 because I could see Mike Tomlin snatching him up in the 3rd round and loving this guy and him being the 1B to Jalen Warren. EJ, where are you kind of at on Cam Skattebo? Because obviously just between Debro and I, very polarizing.
Yeah, very polarizing player. I was happy to see his name on the list because I think he's worthy of a lot of these conversations. And honestly, I'd say I'd split the difference between you two. I think there are a lot of things that you can like about his game. They're not typically the things that college fans like. The things that college fans like are going to translate less well to the NFL, but there are still a lot of things that NFL teams like about a guy like Cam Skattebo. He is unquestionably tough, and he plays that way. And NFL decision makers love that. They, right or wrong, they dig it.
Yeah.
That comes with mileage. That comes with wear. Some teams aren't wild about that. The passing game is very underrated for him. He is one of the better pass receiving backs in this class. And that is a valuable role because if you're going to come in, be hard-nosed in pass protection and, then chip and release stuff, he's going to be a weapon for you. Again, you can get small explosive plays on the perimeter out of the passing game, which is really substituting for the run game. Cam Skattebo could be worthwhile there. If you're a college fan and you think he's going to come in and get 25 or 30 carries, nobody gets that.
Right. Yeah.
Even usually combined, we're not rushing the ball 30 to 35 times a game in the NFL. We're lucky if we run it 25 times a game. We do need more pop from each one of those. Now, can you get it creatively? Right. Now we're back into the kind of Luther Burden argument of, well, if we set him up here and we get him one-on-one with a 180-pound defensive back, I think he can take it. Well, sure. And he will do that a couple times, and it will be exciting, just like it was in the college football playoff. Can you build an offense out of that, right? Can you make a lunch out of those ingredients?
Yeah.
Not week to week, typically. Doesn't mean he doesn't have a roster spot. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a beloved teammate. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a tone setter on the goal line, in short yardage, 3rd down, setting the edge against pass rushers, then getting out, catching a little pass and rumbling for 18 yards because he does get a 180-pound defensive back one-on-one. Those will be the kind of plays he makes, but those are around the edges plays. Those aren't sort of main dish plays. So up top, people are talking about him, early on, right after the college football player, people were talking about him as a first-round running back. No, way too rich for me. Second-round running back. Day 3, I can see it. I'm with you. End of day 3, compensatory picks start to come into it. Somebody goes, hey, we want this, right? We want all those things that he is. Right or wrong, it only takes one. That's about where it starts for me. Or sorry, not day 3, round 3. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah. End of round 3, day 2. Like compensatory picks. Yeah. Anywhere on the third day, sure. All the positives you go, look, we need this. He's going to fill this niche in our running back room. He is not going to be our 1A. He is not going to be our future shining hope for EPA in the run game. That is not. We're going into this with eyes wide open and saying he is complimentary in a way that we like. He's got a lot of good skills. It's proven. We love the kid. We love the guy. We love the worker, whatever that is. Yeah, they're going to do it. So could we see him at the end of day 2? I think we absolutely could. That's probably where it starts for me. And I think a lot of people are, generally higher on him than that. We're going to get through round 2 for sure. And Arizona State fans are going to be like, what are you doing? Did you not see this guy? And it happens every year, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he is the guy. If you're an NFL team and you want to take the old Packers approach and you want to draft 2 guys and build your backfield and diversify skill sets, he's the guy that you take to be the early down thumper, and then you take one of these passing down specialists maybe later, or a guy that's going to give you big play ability, and you team them together for the future. That's it.
Like a Jaden Blue or something like that?
Yeah, like Jaden Blue, Marcus Yarns, Bashard Smith, let's keep going down the archetype of guys that are fast and can give you explosives.
Okay. Real quick, before we round out the show with one final polarizing prospect, I did want to remind everyone to use our Dynasty Rookie Draft Simulator that lets you complete a mock draft in minutes with no waiting between picks. You can actually customize your league settings to match your league's exact format. And if you're a premium subscriber, you can test trade scenarios by mocking with your traded draft picks. Prepare for rookie drafts and Dynasty startup drafts in one place. Use the Dynasty Rookie Draft Simulator to dominate your rookie draft today at fantasypros.com/simulator. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and round it out with a tight end here with arguably one of the greatest tight end seasons in recent history. It's Harold Fannin Jr. coming out of Bowling Green, 117 receptions, over 1,500 yards, MAC Offensive Player of the Year, consensus All-American. However, at 6'3", 241 pounds, he ran a 4.71 second 40-yard dash. Many have described the Canton, Ohio native as a, quote, tweener, that he won't be on the field for all 3 downs. Do you share those same concerns, EJ?
I think so, but I also think the conversation around Harold Fannin Jr. has, again, kind of gone too far. We opened the show talking about Shedeur, and some of those conversations have gone too far. I had people dropping him down to like the end of day 3, and I'm like, did you not see him play football? Because he keeps doing it. Regardless of what he ran, regardless of his size, regardless of the offense, he keeps doing it. And you keep coming up with excuses why he didn't or why he can't or why he won't. And he keeps doing it. And he did it over and over and over again. You talk about the production was outstanding. 150 targets, 117 catches, 1,500 yards. Like, at some point, dude's a baller. He can play football. He's 6'3", 241. Mason Taylor, who's a much larger athlete with NFL lineage, and they're like, he's 6'5", 251. Wait a minute. He's 10 pounds heavier. We're doing this over 10 pounds again, right? You look at the times that tight ends ran at Indy. I was a little disappointed by them in general as a class. I went in higher on the tight end class and thinking, this is incredibly deep. And I came out of Indy. I kind of reverse the wide receiver and tight end classes. I went in thinking this is a weak wide receiver class, a really strong tight end class. Kind of left Indianapolis like reversing that, going, there are some good tight ends here, but it drops off more quickly than I thought it did, and you're going to get less when you get farther down. And the wide receivers kind of snuck up on me, and I was like, there's some sneaky depth there. So again, Harold Fannin Jr., you watch the tape and you say, hey, this is the way that he wins. This is who he is. Does it translate to Sunday? There's a lot of players that win just like he does in the NFL. Are they faster? Generally at his size, they are. I get it. But at some point, there's all that production. Is he going to have all that production in the NFL? No, I don't think you're drafting him thinking, oh, this is going to be 1,000-yard tight end. But there are a lot of very good 500-yard tight ends in the NFL. And if you're telling me that Harold Fannin Jr. can't do that, I'm telling you, I think you're wrong.
Okay. What do you think, Derek Brown? Are you wrong?
No, I'm with EJ on that. I guess I'll bounce this back to EJ real fast before I kind of lay into it. EJ, do you think, where do you put his draft stock? Do you think he gets into round 3? Like, I don't think there's a chance he goes in round 2.
No, I don't think so either because of the outlier status, right? Yeah. GMs in the NFL are risk averse, so they're. And I think somebody's going to have to really believe in him. Yeah,
somebody's going to have to really believe in him to take him round 3 too. Mm-hmm. So, like, are you with me? Like, probably round 4.
I think he's going to be one of those players that a lot of people are surprised when day 3 comes around. He's probably going to be on that list, like best available players. I can't believe this guy that was this wildly productive is still here. There are reasons for that. Do I think he goes pretty early on day 3? I do. Could I see him like Skattebo going at the end of day 2? Again, you know, if you're building your tight end room, if you've got the other guys or the other archetypes and you're like, your offensive coordinator is like, I want this guy because I know how I'm going to use him. Yeah. I could see it happening. Again, we're going to see a lot of that top to bottom in this draft where our evaluations don't line up with the leagues because there's this wide middle of talent that has a very sort of similar grade base. So we're going to see these huge round variations. I thought he was a 2nd round guy. Oh, he went in the 4th. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a 5th round guy. He went at the end of the 2nd. What happened? Like, teams just view them differently. So I could see a room with a built tight end room looking for this piece, this role player to play and be a flexible piece in, let's just call it 4 wide receiver sets because it's 3 wide receivers and Harold Fannin. And, you know, working those underneath spots. He's very good against zone. He just finds a way to keep doing it. He's one of those players you're like, he doesn't look that fast. Well, sure enough, he's not that fast.
Yeah.
Keeps getting open. Keeps making the catches, contested catches situations too. And you're like, at some point, you just got to bat out of the production and go, it's not going to be NFL production at that low, but to tell me this guy doesn't produce, production does translate from college to the pros, both on the offensive side and the defensive side. When a guy has this much production, it's beyond like, oh, we schemed him open some. Like, the guy knows how to play football. He's going to be able to keep doing it at the next level.
I think we see Harold Fannin in a very, very similar light. Like, I don't think that from the way that you're contextualizing his game, you don't see him as being a 3-down full-time, like 85% snap starting tight end in the NFL. And I don't either. And that's where I think, like, a lot of people are projecting that he can be that type of guy. And I just don't see that. Like, my comp, I think, perfectly encapsulates what I see at his in the NFL. He's Isaiah Likely to me. He's just Isaiah Likely 2.0 in a lot of different ways. Now, there are subtle differences to his game and Likely and stuff like that. Like, we could have a long conversation about all that. But I think he's the guy that he's going to be the tight end 2 on your roster. He's going to come in when you're playing 12. You can flex him into the slot. Like, I don't think that he's going to be the guy you're asking to down blocks at the edge. Like, he's not in line. He's not the guy that you're going to play 85% of the snaps. And that's where I think the polarizing part comes in here in the tweener conversation of, because even the guys that have operated in that hyper specific, like, big slot, super, like, Mike Gesicki's of the world and stuff like that. Yep. They are ridiculous, otherworld type of athletes. And going back to an earlier point EJ made, and I think this perfectly encapsulates Fannin. When you talk about NFL and NFL offensive coordinators and just coaches carving out roles and saying, I need to do this and this and this and this and this to get you involved, to create a role for you, versus guys that come in and say, I can do everything. I'm earning role. I'm earning snaps. I can be the every down guy. This is the guy where you put him in that Luther Burden type of bucket. You put him in that bucket where we need to make a lot of concessions on how we're using him, how we're utilizing him, what he can and can't do. And for me, that's where the tweener label is. I mean, it's perfect because I think Fannin, where his athletic limitations are, his feet make up for a lot of, like, I think his hips are more stiff, and I think you see that in his routes and things like that, and sinking his hips at the top and how you can utilize him. But again, as a player that we saw win down the seam in college at Bowling Green, that's a whole lot easier to do when you're running a 4.7 versus the NFL, and you got linebackers that are right with you. And so you're probably it's not going to be a clean catch point. So you're going to have to muscle up some dudes or win with body control or back shoulders. And is he a guy that you can consistently ask to stretch the field down the seam? No, I don't think so in the NFL. Could he do it on occasion or sneak down the seam? Sure. But being a true pass game weapon where he's changing the math of how defenses are going to have to account for and play an offense with him in it, I don't see him as a math changer. And to me, to operate in this role at a high level and to buck the trend, you need to be a guy that changes the math. Like we're seeing Dalton Kincaid is like the high end of like what he's even facing like 60 and 65% route shares in the NFL right now. And I know a lot of context with injuries last year play into that. But Fannin, again, I see him as being a solid player in the NFL. I just see Isaiah Likely. He's going to be a 12 personnel tight end. And for me, if I'm an NFL GM and stuff like that, that's not a player I'm drafting in the second round of the NFL draft. That's not a player that I'm drafting in the third round. That's not a player that maybe I'm even pushing the button for, depending on how our board stacks up, even in round 4. Like, so again, I love the player. I like his skill set, but transitioning this to the NFL, I'm more worried that instead of a team leaning into this and saying, we will do this, we will carve out a role, you will be a fulcrum and the number 2 in our passing attack, I worry more that there is more there that he gets Isaiah Likely, that he gets Jaheim Beld, and that he falls into late round 4 or round 5.
Well, gentlemen, great discussion today. EJ, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us how we can best find, support your content throughout the rest of this 2025 NFL draft process and beyond, my friend?
Absolutely. Head to YouTube, type in Bootleg Football. You'll find most of the things there. If you want even more than that, go to Patreon, type in the same thing. And as you mentioned, Bear Era for the Bear-specific stuff, for the Chicago diehards, I guess we'll call them.
I was going to call them D-Gens. I was going to, the unfortunate
D-Gens,
few,
absolutely.
whatever you want to call. Yeah.
We take that label proudly. You can find it in any of those 3 places.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for us today on the Fantasy Pros NFL Draft Show. Thank you all so much for watching. A reminder that D-Bro and I will be live on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel each of the next few Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, taking your NFL draft questions. Our entire team will also be live throughout day 1 and day 2 of the NFL Draft. Again, please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel and the podcast feed. For Derek Brown and EJ Snyder, I'm Seth Woolcock. Take care, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. If you love the show, the best free way to support us is by leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Follow us on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Fantasy Pros, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/fantasypros.